mask off. Hello, everybody. Ooh, it's loud. Okay. Okay, please take your seats. Turn off your phones or silence it, whatever you prefer. I always forget to do that. Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming today and joining us and helping to celebrate Kol Nidre. The service will be led by Rabbi Jeremy Kreidel. In the meantime, I'll just give you a few updates on what's happening in Machar, and then we'll start service. Just a reminder, if you are RSVP for Yom Kippur tomorrow morning at 10:30, and your plans change, or if you can't come, please let Tara know, because we have a wait list. So if you can come, you can watch service on YouTube, but definitely let us know. So Rosh Hashanah service is available on YouTube, and if you were not able to attend Rosh Hashanah service about a week ago, you can always go online and watch on YouTube. So the morning service is going to start tomorrow at 9:30 for children's services and 10:30 for grown-ups. There will be live streaming, and the link will be available afterwards to watch on YouTube. So Sukkot celebration is coming up on Sunday, October 9th. That's when we're celebrating Sukkot. It's going to be in Cabin John Regional Park, Shelter K. The information in the newsletter. Please RSVP as soon as possible. It's not just for kids, it's for everybody, and I hope to see you or some of you at the Sukkot. There's plenty of parking there, and we have, even if it's raining, rain or shine, we have a shelter so we can be under the roof. So our next adult education session will be on October 16, and it's going to be on Zoom only. And Peter Barnes, he's going to do presentation about can universal property cure capitalism and save the climate. So it sounds like very interesting presentation and discussion. So the link will be sent out. Check your Tuesday newsletter on Tuesdays. So, and then Social Action Committee, Shepherd's Table, we have reserved time on the third Saturday for everyone once a month to participate. The next Saturday Shepherd's Table activity will be on Saturday, October 15th, so please register if you can. Also, Social Action Committee been very active in all aspects of Machar's life. One of the activities that we planned was Fall Park cleanup. So it planned to be on Sunday, October 23rd after JCS, and hopefully we'll get details soon. So we've been having Kabbalat Shabbat on Saturdays, but Jeremy still continues to recover, and hopefully one of our members will step in and lead the service live on Friday nights. I will be leading Shabbat service this Friday, October 7th on Zoom at 7 p.m. And I will mail details and Zoom link on Thursday morning. So please join me, Zoom live Shabbat service. Just want to say thank you, Nadine, and all the volunteers who helped to set up and on all of the aspects of high holidays. And I just want to introduce Rabbi Jeremy, and we can start service. Thank you.
So I want to say Shana Tova, but that's not exactly the right greeting for Yom Kippur. So we'll just say good evening. Apparently I'm dropping the church's pushpins everywhere up here. So to those online, to those here, on behalf of the Machar community, welcome to our Kol Nidre service for 2022 as we take our first steps into Yom Kippur. Some are joining online, some are here in person. However you're joining us, if you're visiting or you're new to our community, welcome. I hope we'll get a chance to talk, even if it's only briefly. And if you're not here in person, you can always contact me, even if you're here in person, but you just can't get me. You can always contact me at rabbi@machar.org. And if this is not your first time with Machar, welcome back. Obviously, you can also contact me too. I'd like to briefly introduce our choir today. So Harry Appelman is providing accompaniment. And we have Joanna Pratt, Joy Markowitz, Laura Ariovich, and Greg Greisa. As well, we will have two Machar members co-leading the service today, and we'll call them up in a little bit. Before continuing, please do silence your cell phones. You're never going to turn them off, and I know that, so I'm not going to ask that because that's crazy talk. But though the world out there is important, you being here and respectful of your neighbors is more important at the moment. If you haven't been with us before or you're joining us online, the lyrics for our songs are in the back of your books if you're using a physical copy of the book, behind a tab for a little hymnal section. So as we have songs, I'll let you know what number in the hymnal section the song is. You go to that song in the back. The lyrics are there along with the music. It's a little confusing until you get used to it. If you're joining us online, you received that hymnal packet via a link in your email. So you have access to both the service book and to the little hymnal packet for your use. Though we're here in community, many of us don't know one another, or you don't recognize the person that you already know because of the whole mask thing. So please take a moment and introduce yourself to the people around you, just in case you think you don't know that person and it turns out really you do. And if you're online, I suppose you can introduce yourself to yourself. So I have two things that are rapidly becoming my favorite things about the high holiday services. One of my favorite things about the high holiday services is seeing how young people get to be not as young as they were year over year over year. The other one is this Bart Simpson thing that gets shared around on Facebook every year. And it's this Bart Simpson thing. You've seen it probably before. Bart Simpson from The Simpsons at a chalkboard writing lines as punishment. Except the lines that he's writing for the high holiday season are, I will not count to see how many pages are left in the book. I will not count to see how many pages. You can count to see how many pages are left. Look, our books are a lot shorter, right? But It's okay to be distracted. Don't feel guilty about being distracted. Wayward thoughts come up, and they're thoughts that probably you need to have. So if you get distracted, that's okay. I'll try to make sure I'm announcing page numbers so that you can kind of connect back up with us when you're ready to. So I'd like to invite up our first reader, Sharon Rosenberg. And we are on the top of, as it turns out, page 1 in the Kol Nidre section. And we actually start with a song of greeting, Hine Matov, which is, I think I have the right one, number 11 in your hymnal section. There's so many Hine Matovs, but we're doing number 11 in your hymnal section. Behold how good and pleasant it is for people to dwell together in unity. As evening casts its shadow over the earth, ushering in this most significant day, our thoughts join with those of other Jews throughout the world.
We put aside petty concerns and vain desires. We ask ourselves important questions. What is our life, and of what avail is our strength? What is our wealth, and to what purpose our power? How can we control the course of our lives? What is our future?
And together, on this Kol Nidre night, bound by the long memories of our people, we stand united with generations past, recalling the lives of our forebears. We are stripped of pretense and revealed in all our vulnerability. Amid the uncertainties of life, we seek peace within ourselves and with other people.
Na'a Tiferet Ha'adam. How radiant is the glory of humankind. Na'a Tiferet Ha'chayim. How beautiful is the glory of life. In the year to come, may we succeed in examining our lives and in living with our realities.
Or zarua latzadikim uliyishre lev simcha. Together, I'll say it slower. Or zarua latzadikim uliyishre lev simcha. Light is sown for the righteous, and joy for the just in heart.
Let us celebrate the light of the candles.
They burn for us. They reflect the hope in our hearts. May they light the way in our years to come. So we are on the top of page 3. We'll sing Eifo Ori, which conveniently placed after we just lit some lights. Eifo Ori means where is my light? And so it is number 2 in your hymnal section. תקוותי בי, איפה כוחי בי, וגם בך, וגם בך, איפה כוחי בי, וגם בך, וגם בך. Where is my light? My light is in me. Where is my hope? My hope is in me. Where is my strength? My strength is in me. And in you. And in you. Where is my strength? My strength is in me. And in you. And in you.
Kol Nidre is not a prayer, but a chant. It is concerned with the importance of vows, oaths, and promises of human behavior.
In the 5th chapter of Ecclesiastes, the author says, "It is better not to vow at all than to vow and not fulfill." But our forebears understood the need for escape clauses in human intentions. For despite good intentions, all of us make promises we cannot keep.
Jewish tradition has established that unfulfilled promises and commitments to other people require forgiveness from those wronged. This is the cornerstone of the secular humanistic Jewish view of Yom Kippur. Human interaction is the highest form of relationship, and it is only at this level that forgiveness and interpersonal rebuilding can be undertaken.
Kol Nidre, chant of ages, chant of Israel, chant of sorrow, measuring off the throbbing heartbeats of a people bowed in anguish, crushed by tyrants, thwarted, broken, wandering ever, homeless, weary.
Generations set your motif out of trials, hopes, and yearnings, added each its variations to your theme and to your cadence. Diverse lands and diverse periods poured their soul into your music.
When we hearken with our hearts tuned, we can hear the lamentations through time's corridor resounding. We can see revealed before us heroes, martyrs, saints and scholars, loyal, steadfast people of Israel. Before we hear the first strains of Kol Nidre, we should take note of what the words of Kol Nidre really are. Not only their plain translation, but what's happening beneath the surface. On the surface, Kol Nidre is really a kind of contract proviso, a preemptive pass to maybe not really fulfill all our commitments. That we say this in community says a little something else. It tells us that we all together recognize that we will all come up short, however much we try to do better in the coming year. In some congregations, the recognition of past failure is actually dealt with in a kind of quasi-legal way too. Often the person leading the service, the Shaliach Tzibor, the representative of the community, recites a text that convenes the entire community as a kind of special court that recognizes that everyone has broken their word, giving the community permission to sit together, to forgive one another, and to hear one another's testimony. We don't even need to forgive ourselves as individuals to do this. We only need to accept that we and others are human, limited creatures who fail time and again, and recognize that our fallibility is one of the ties that binds us together as a people, Jewish or not. Kol Nidre, a legal text rather than a prayer, is in this way fundamentally human, in a way that much of the traditional Yom Kippur liturgy is at least superficially not. Kol Nidre, as it happens, is also not in Hebrew. I know it's in Hebrew letters, but you know how people steal alphabets? We stole the Aramaic alphabet, and Kol Nidre is actually written in Aramaic. The Talmud, an almost stream of consciousness work of Jewish thought that formed the core of much of Jewish life for the last 1,500 years, has a lot of odd ideas. Among them is that some texts had to be recited as a community. In particular, things written in Aramaic. The Talmud's rationale is odd. I just said the Talmud does odd things, and this rationale is odd. Hang in there. The rabbis concluded that angels, otherwise extraordinarily powerful beings, just didn't understand Aramaic. Hebrew, they got it. Aramaic, literally the lingua franca of the ancient Near East for a while. Angels don't know. How are angels supposed to be able to understand you if they didn't know Aramaic? So if you wrote it in Aramaic, you needed to convene the entire community because the angels just, they don't know. This is not a convincing rationale. I'm just telling you what they said, right? This is like the kid who comes home and gives you this weird explanation for stuff, and then it's not me. But that idea that Aramaic needs a quorum to be used meant that Kol Nidre, written not in Hebrew but in Aramaic, had to be a communal statement instead of one that you could just kind of recite on your own. Inheriting that tradition, we have Kol Nidre chanted by one person on behalf of us all, acknowledging that we all fall short of our promises and goals. And so just as we break our commitments as individuals, we do so as a community and in our various other communities, families and workplaces and committees and governments, and yes, congregations. We all fall short, alone and in combination with others, and so it's just as well that Kol Nidre is a text that belongs to the whole community. So I'd like to ask Greg Greisa to step up to the podium over there to chant the traditional Kol Nidre on page 4.
O Nidre ve'asare ve'karame ve'koname ve'kinu ye ve'kinu se ushavuot
okay to clap. I know we grew up in synagogues where clapping was not allowed, but this is hard. You didn't want to hear me try to do this. So we're on the middle of page 4. All personal vows we are likely to make, all personal oaths and pledges we are likely to take, between this Yom Kippur and the next Yom Kippur we publicly renounce. Let them be relinquished and abandoned, null and void, neither firm nor established. Let our personal oaths, our personal vows, pledges, and oaths be considered neither vows nor pledges nor oaths. Here we stand, heirs of the past and creators of the future. Let us open our eyes to wisdom with a new heart, a new spirit, and a new resolve.
Once more, Yom Kippur has come, and we strive to rid ourselves of self-pretense. We stand now between the day that was and the one that will be.
In the years gone by, what did we take? What did we give? To what were we blind? Our passion shall now be for wisdom. Love and truth we shall find. Justice and peace we shall embrace. And our impulse for good shall prevail.
Kol Nidre, chant of ages, chant of pain and chant of pathos, mingled with your notes of sorrow are notes of joyous exultation.
Kol Nidre, chant of the ages, chant of grief and chant of triumph, echoing this night of memories in the ears and hearts of Israel, as once again we draw together. With your plaintive chant, Kol Nidre, rise our hopes for the dawn of peace, when all hearts are purged of hatred, passions, and lusts that rend asunder, so that all may stand together. May our hearts and minds be open to what this day asks of us. May we be prepared to listen with our minds and hearts. As we prepare to do that, Harry Appelman will perform an instrumental rendition of Kol Nidre on piano. Thank you, Harry. Something to notice about the music you just heard and about Kol Nidre melodically generally. I'm not going to teach a music theory class here, don't worry. But it moves back and forth mood-wise. Sometimes it has this very minor down feel, and sometimes it has this very major up feel. And it happens in the same line. This is the traditional sound of High Holidays liturgy. Sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down. And so a time of year that we tend to think about as a down time of year, a negative time of year, the Day of Atonement, right? What a big idea. Is actually a little more mixed than we give it credit for musically, and that we give it credit for thematically. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today and again tomorrow. We're on the top of page 6. We began this year, as all years, with promises and good intentions for improving our lives. Too many promises have been forgotten, too many hopes not realized. Who will hear our regrets? Who will open our prison and set us free? To whom can we raise our voices?
As we accept our imperfections and confirm our hopes, we grow in ethical and moral strength. With a sense for life's potential, we move beyond finding fault to seeking new opportunities for growth.
What can we learn from the Kol Nidre? We must avoid making empty vows. We must commit ourselves to deeds rather than words. We will strip away old habits. We will be open to change. Even as we accept our shortcomings, we also acknowledge our greatest hopes, and we reaffirm our commitments to love, chesed, and to righteous action, tzedek. Our humanistic Kol Nidre reflects those commitments even as its melody laments the inevitability of our failing to meet our own expectations time and again. The Kol Nidre is traditionally recited or repeated in some way 3 times. This is our 3rd repetition, and Greg Reisa will chant our humanistic Kol Nidre.
Kol Nidre be'asare ve'karame ve'koname ve'kinuye ve'kinuseu shvuot Karimna Vadi Asarana Laman Ahava Utsadaka Yehayu Kayami.
Because this is not the disclaimer, this is the recommitment, we recite the translation for this Kol Nidre together toward the bottom of page 6. All personal vows we make, all personal oaths and pledges we may take that are made for love and for righteousness, we affirm and accept. We began this year as all years with promises and good intentions for improving our lives.
Too many promises have been forgotten, too many hopes not realized. As the promises were ours, forgiveness must be ours.
As we accept our imperfections and affirm our hopes, we grow in ethical and moral strength. With a sense for life's potential, we move beyond finding fault or blame to seeking new opportunities for growth.
While we may have a modern philosophical outlook, we are not so different from our ancestors. The underlying ideas of the Kol Nidre still possess significance for us today. These are the sincere longing for a clear conscience, the release from feelings of guilt, the recognition of the sacredness of the promised word, and the desire to be absolved from vows which could not be carried out.
How many of us have fulfilled all that we have vowed? Who among us has not broken a heartfelt promise? I hereby forgive those who have hurt me, whether deliberately or by accident. As I forgive and pardon fully those who have wronged me, may those whom I have harmed in any way also forgive and pardon me. And may I not willfully repeat those wrongs I have committed in the past, and lovingly forgive myself as I forgave and was forgiven by others.
May tolerance and justice light our days. May tolerance and justice light the world.
We're on the top of page 8, which is labeled as Humanistic Viduyim, Confessionals. Viduyim is the plural for confessionals, Vidui is the singular. There's this traditional myth about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur that on Rosh Hashanah 3 books are opened, a book of life, a book of death, and a book of Beinonim, in-betweeners. The totally good or the totally bad are immediately written into their respective books, and the in-betweener's fate hangs in the balance, in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, on which the final judgments are entered. In this myth, almost everyone is an in-betweener, so that our efforts between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are meant to earn us enough merit, or at least repair enough damage, that we end up in the book of life when Yom Kippur finally concludes. And even the people who wrote this myth understood it to be exactly that, a foundational story, something that smacks of some truth rather than being factually true. It's not so much that Yom Kippur really decides who lives and who dies, it's that Yom Kippur provides an opportunity to recognize that the world and sometimes our lives are often made worse by doing things that harm others. And so the point of confessional texts like these is not that we imagine that if we say enough sorries and admit enough fault, that we'll survive the next year. We don't think we're literally going to be inscribed in a book of life because it doesn't take much thought until you realize that whole, it's what they call a leaky analogy. It just doesn't hold water. The point is to open our eyes to what we may have done, the ways we may have done wrong in the world. The point is to make it so that we walk away from the holiday aware of what we can do and its effects so that we're more reflective and more ethical people in the year to come. And so we're at the top of page 8. Perhaps part of the blame falls on me, because I kept silent, uttered no cry. Fear froze my heart and confused my mind, and I did not resist the lie.
My clear voice was choked and dumb, and I allowed them, without protest, to outrage and violate what was dearest to me, holiest.
Cowardice came down and walked the earth. We hid our true feelings from one another. We did not hear the cry of a friend, and our own cry we often had to smother. Black suspicion like the plague murdered faith and left hearts cold. Courage was branded treason. Betrayal was called heroic, bold.
The courts were ordered what verdicts to give. Trials were secret, the results never in doubt. Light hung its head in shame, waiting that at least one man should cry out.
No, but no one cried. Before he formed the word, could articulate, his head was broken and his tongue torn out. Only one thing was left, the patience to wait that justice might prevail one day. Perhaps that was part of my blame, that I kept silent, did not speak, as though I had nothing to say. So we are on the top of page 9, and we'll sing together, led by the choir, Bamakom, which is number 12 in the hymnal. Together on the middle of page 9, we're on the middle of page 9.
I have seen violence scar the face of our planet.
Yet I did not speak.
I have heard cries of hungry children.
Yet I did not speak.
I have seen poverty and diseases.
Yet I did not speak.
I have witnessed the pain and suffering of others.
Yet I did not speak.
I have wanted to scream out in rage against injustice.
Yet I did not speak.
I too have been in pain.
Yet I did not speak.
I have wanted to laugh with joy.
Yet I did not speak.
I have wanted to share words of love.
Yet I did not speak.
Yet there were times of outrage, pain, and joy.
I did speak.
May I always have the courage to speak what must be spoken.
May we always have the courage to speak what must be spoken. Deep in the center of this holiday is the concept of commitment, individual and communal. If the year does not begin fresh with hope and clean of wrongdoing, then we suffer and the community suffers. But the choice is ours. It is not foreordained. The world of possibilities is born again each year. Perhaps all of us in all our relationships, to ourselves, to our loved ones, and to our society, need to reevaluate our sense of commitment. We also need to reevaluate society's commitment to us. Perhaps this symbolizes the true meaning of Yom Kippur for us, to assume responsibility for all that we want and all that we are. Sharon, thank you for being our first reader. Before I invite up our second reader, I think it's worth pausing at this point in our service, where we've taken some kind of inventory of the year that's gone by, and we'll soon visit our personal and collective pasts. And so right here, we'll pause. And first, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm up here, virtually you can see I'm up here. I'm up here, you're down there, or out there. And it always feels, this is a big space. There's a big space between me and you. And it always feels like there's this gulf. And to me, at least, it's a little uncomfortable. So for a little bit, I'm going to come down and we'll talk. Don't worry, I can't get too close. There's cameras and microphones. And I promise that I've been boosted to the maximum and tested negative with a rapid test and all of that fun stuff. So I'm going to come down. The choir can shift as it needs to. And I'll be right there. And I know people are now worrying, wait a second, don't you have like a leg or a back thing? And what are you going to do coming down the stairs? I'll be okay. It's only a couple of steps. It'll be okay. Ta-da. Felt a little bit like that scene in Young Frankenstein where walk forward. So I want us to take a moment and consider the theme that we're winding our way through in our talks this holiday season, which is coping with overload. And I want to revisit our assumptions about these ideas, and I think the way to do it is by exploring the idea of overload in these holidays themselves. So we've talked about this traditional myth that undergirds the high holidays that comes from a statement made by one rabbi in the Talmud from about 1,500 years ago. And that rabbi is reported to have said, 3 books are opened on Yom Kippur, right? Book of Life, all the good people, the obviously good people, the completely good people. I'm sorry, I don't know any of those people. You're all lovely, but I don't think we qualify. Those people all immediately go into the book of life. The people who are totally bad, immediately in the book of death. And the rest of us, we hang in the balance. And this basic myth is it's fundamental to what you find in traditional high holidays prayer books. The Amidah, the kind of central prayer that occupies a huge amount of page space in these books, they're much larger than they are the rest of the year. Something about the book of life is probably on every page, multiple times on a lot of pages. There are always at least 4 insertions about the book of life. You may have heard some of them chanted before. B'Sefer Chaim Bracha V'Shalom, right? In the book of life, blessing, peace. Oh, and there's one clause I left out. Ufarnasa Tova, having a good living. Always you should have a good living, right? These are added to the Amidah, these inserts. And there are dozens of additional prayers, probably hundreds, pulled into the services in these books. There's so much added that really no one uses them all. You couldn't use them all. I mean, you could, but you'd be doing high holiday services for about 5 days. You don't want to stay that long, right? I didn't bring my Orthodox prayer books with me today, so it's not really an option, but I guess we could try tomorrow. And they hit similar themes. The idea of anxiety at our fate in the coming year, and the idea that making amends today may ensure a better tomorrow. And that anxiety, what's going to happen? That's what's at the core of the traditional view of the high holidays. The high holidays don't ever end with, I've been forgiven, I know it. How does it end? How does Yom Kippur end? I'll take comments from the peanut gallery. How does Yom Kippur end? We do it the same way here, kinda. Eating. Well, that's after Yom Kippur, right? Shana Tova. Blowing a shofar, and maybe next year in Jerusalem. Is the shofar supposed to be a happy sound? The shofar is an alarm. Heck, one of the 4 shofar calls is teruah, alarm. We end the high holidays alarmed. Not complacent, not necessarily hopeful, but alarmed. We end the high holidays not, okay, we did it, but instead reminded that there's work to be done in the coming year. And I have to tell you a secret about the high holidays. It's not really about resolution. It's about overload. There's a quote that flies around on social media, out of control, attributed to the Talmud. It is not the Talmud, but it seems Talmudy, or you want it to be Talmudy. And it says, do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Setting aside the erroneous provenance of the quote, we can talk later about who it is. I know exactly who it is. That quote circulated constantly during the last presidential administration. see it on Facebook like every 3 or 4 days. Maybe I'm spending too much time on Facebook. Okay. But it circulated a lot because people needed to feel some kind of uplift and encouragement to do something when it seemed like doing anything was doomed to accomplish nothing. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. The high holidays are here to remind us that that's fine 355 days out of the year. But the 10 days from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, the tradition says, are when our fates hang in the balance, and we need these days because we actually have to experience something important. We need the experience every now and then of feeling overloaded by worry. And this could happen any time of year, unless you believe that the world is actually 5,783 years old, in which case you think humans were created on Rosh Hashanah. That's probably not most of us here. So there's no metaphysical necessity that we're all here right now. But the dominant culture we live in the US, and really throughout the West, isn't prone to making you want to feel overloaded. This is how computers and phones and features in our cars and features in our homes, this is how they're pitched to us. They make life easier. Whether they do or don't, separate issue, but that's the pitch, right? Hey, Alexa. Okay, Google. We'll see who's turned their cell phone off. Hey, Siri. My phone didn't go off. Whether they succeed in streamlining our lives, there's no getting around the reason they're sold to us. They're supposed to ease your overload. The high holidays present us with overload on purpose. Why recite so many texts taking responsibility for things we haven't maybe done? Have you stopped and thought about that? Why revisit the losses of loved ones so insistently as we do on the high holidays? Why blow the shofar as many times as we do? Now, to be fair, we're not doing it 200 odd times the way it would happen in an Orthodox synagogue. But considering the amount of time we spend together, we're blowing a lot of shofar. And what is Kol Nidre doing if not serving as an outlet for some of the anxiety we feel at having failed in the past year? If we don't allow ourselves to feel some overload, if we don't succumb at least a little to the overwhelming imperfections of the world and the overwhelming difficulties we or others might face during these 10 days, there's a real risk culturally that we might not ever have to think about it. That you could disregard empathy all the rest of the time because we might not ever let ourselves feel the difficulty of the world, right? Don't be overcome by the world's grief. Our lives are actually fraught with difficulty. They're also comparatively easy in the broader scheme of things. And being forced to experience overload humanizes us. It develops our sense of empathy, the ability to imagine that what we do causes others pain. And in that, the high holidays help us develop our ethical sense, the piece of our decision-making that demands that we think about what we do and how it affects others. So while we're talking about coping with overload this season, I want to invite you to consider feeling a little overload of a different sort. Consider feeling some of the hurt that comes with being on the receiving end of the ethical violations we've mentioned. Consider feeling some of the overload that comes with remembering our personal and our people's pasts. Rather than dismissing it, rather than not being dismayed by the world's pain, take this moment and tomorrow to feel some of that overload. Let it build your moral imagination so that you can carry it with you into the coming year. Overload of the right kind can make us better than we were before. Let's embrace that experience today because we might not have time for it tomorrow. I'm going to set aside everybody's fears. I'm going to go back up there. And I'd like to ask Livia Rosenberg to come up and be our reader for the second half of our service. And that really felt like young Frankenstein going up those stairs. So we're on the top of page 11, and Livia will start for us.
In whom can we place our belief? Ourselves. In whom can we set the soul aglow? Ourselves. Who has the power to, how do you say that word?
Assuage.
Assuage guilt and to end the reasons for guilt. We do. We ourselves. We of human heart and spirit.
To whom should we give our first applause? In whose inner being lies the power to exalt our humanness? Let us give ourselves the first applause. Let us reach into our inner selves and find that which we call righteousness. For it is not found in the heavens or beyond the mountain. It is found here inside our inner human depths. It waits there for us to seek it out.
Can we give an accounting of our souls? Do we dare to ourselves? What will we find in the recesses of our mind, in the echoes of our past?
We have the power and choice to narrow the abyss between the thought of good and the deed of good. Can we find the will? We can, and we shall. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
For each time that we have struck out in anger without justice or cause. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
Together on the top of page 12, we forgive each other and ourselves. We begin again in love.
For the selfishness that sets us apart and alone. For falling short of admonitions of the Spirit. For losing sight of our unity.
For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, that have fueled the illusion of separateness, we forgive each other and ourselves. We begin again in love. We're on the middle of page 12 for our Nizkor section. It is worth remembering, just taking a moment to remember, Nizkor is our Yizkor. This is 100% an Ashkenazi thing. Yizkor, Nizkor, these are Ashkenazic Jewish things. This is not a universal Jewish experience, even though we kind of think it is because that's our experience in the United States, right? Everything defaults to being Ashkenazic. Not everybody does this. Zachor means remember. We are condemned to remember. It is the very nature of the human condition. Because we remember, we have culture. Because we remember, we have tradition. Because we remember, we are able to learn from our past. Even if we wanted to stop remembering, it would insist on intruding. We cannot be the creatures of our evolutionary past who live from moment to moment without the assault of conscious memory. Our past stays with us vividly. We must learn how to live with it. The Yizkor service is a customary part of many Jewish holidays, and the word itself is derived from the beginnings of a prayer, Yizkor Elohim Nishmat, may God remember the soul of. As humanistic Jews, it makes more sense to refer to this important part of our tradition as Nizkor, let us remember.
It is not death I fear, but dying.
May strength and courage be mine.
It is not dying I fear, but pain.
May strength and courage be mine.
It is not leaving I fear, but being left behind.
May strength and courage be mine.
It is not separation I fear, but saying goodbye.
May strength and courage be mine. Each of us remembers our traditions in our own way. It is through our actions today that we build our own legacy. Our traditions will be preserved and passed on to new generations. Their memories will be shaped by our present. We are children of the past. We are parents of the future. If we dwell too much on the past, we shall neglect the future. But we cannot only look forward, or we will forget the lessons that history provides. We are always the bridge between the past and the future. We stretch between the old and the new. We do not betray the future by ignoring our roots. We pay tribute to both. We light our first candle in memory of those killed in the Holocaust. Though they are silent, our ancestors speak with our voices. Though their hands are still, they labor through us. They live in us, in our faces and our bodies, in the energy that moves our muscles and in our thoughts. They survive in our memories. Together, it is good to have the gift of remembrance, to transmit the story of our people from generation to generation.
There are things in Jewish history too terrible to be believed, but not too terrible to have happened. Let us honor the martyrs of the Holocaust in Europe and of all the other Holocausts unleashed on the innocent people of this world. In their memory, we reaffirm our commitment to freedom and peace.
It's become a widespread practice in American synagogues to include a martyrology, a litany commemorating those who died simply for being Jews, in Yom Kippur memorial services. The poem that follows, The Jewish Ghetto of Łódź, was written by one of Machar's earliest members, Harold Black, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. The poem's imagery is difficult, and today I have opted not to read aloud the portion of the poem marked Leader. It is powerful, but it includes themes that can be difficult for some. Instead, let us take a silent moment to remember and honor the martyrs of the Jewish people, those who died for no reason other than that they had some link to our people during the Holocaust and others of the darkest moments of our history.
Trade on the black market, your last tablecloth or sheet for a loaf of bread.
But there are times when you do not choose. A notice is tacked to your door. Fate has chosen you to ride the train. Together on the top of page 15. We will remember. To forget is a crime against memory. We light our second candle for peace in the world. We remember the lives lost in strife and yearn for a day when the words ring true. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmadu od milchama. The nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. May Israel live in peace. May all the world know peace.
I am a member of the world family. I am related to those who stand next to me, by the air we breathe, by the light we share, the hope we have for a better world.
I have a responsibility to give, to receive, to be open, tolerant, free. I have inherited this world from those who have lived here before. I occupy space and time for a few short years. I hold this world in trust for those who will follow.
My life with others can fashion this world toward peace other than strife, hope rather than despair, freedom rather than enslavement.
I, with those about me, can make common humanity a living thing. I pledge my willing spirit to this thought. We will do this together. I know you paused at the brackets. It's because we slightly edited. Who are we to slightly edit the United Nations? But there it is, right in black and white. So, calling an audible. I know people are surprised that I talk about sports ball and then I know what calling an audible is. Calling an audible, it's not too much of an audible. We actually talked about it beforehand. It's an audible for you, not so much for them. If you turn to number 8 in your hymnal section, we have Na'aseh Shalom, a song calling upon us to work for peace.
נעשה שלום לעולם, נעשה שלום עלינו ועמו ישראל, ונאמר אמן. נעשה שלום, נעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועם ישראל. נעשה שלום, נעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועם העולם. נעשה שלום, נעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועם כל ישראל. נעשה שלום, נעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועם כל העולם. נעשה שלום, נעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועם כל העולם.
Before we start the portion of our Nizkor that marks personal losses, it is both good and bad that we are as we are, not a mere handful of people, with many of us online and some of us together in this room. One of the downsides of this is that marking individual losses together as a community is difficult. Those present today have hopefully been able to attach the names of loved ones to leaves we've added to our Atzei Chaim V'Zikaron, our trees of life and memory, when they entered today, so that we can at least mark our losses together. For those who are online with us on the live stream, if you are willing to share with others the names of loved ones you've lost and whom you are missing, please feel free to add those names to the chat. We may not be able to say every name together, but we can at least find imperfect ways of sharing our grief and our memories. We light our third candle to remember our more personal losses. We are all victims of loss. Some of us have wept. Some of us now weep. Some of us will weep tomorrow. Today we remember those who are no longer living. In tribute to them, we live wisely, courageously, and usefully.
Each of us is more than an individual. We are members of a living people. Our lives stretch back into the past and reach forward into the future. As we dream of tomorrow, we do not forget our yesterdays. We remember our loved ones who have died. So long as we live and remember, they too shall live.
If you are able to, please stand for a moment of silence as we remember those we carry in our hearts. Zecher Tzadikim Livracha, together on the bottom of page 16. May the memory of good people be a blessing for us. May the memory of those we loved in life sweeten our thoughts and our deeds. May the grace of their presence reach out to touch our hearts and inspire our days. You may be seated. From generation to generation, Lador Vador, we are linked in time to the traditions of our people, both in community and in innovation. We celebrate the cycle of nature, the chain of tradition, the lessons of our ancestors, the gift of hope, and the joy and preciousness of life. The days pass, a year goes by, but the melody remains. The days pass, a year goes by, but the love remains. The days pass, a year goes by, but the friendship remains.
The history of the Jewish people is long, filled with accounts of menace and isolation, emphasizing our need for connection and peoplehood. We cling to each other for affirmation and mutual support. Even in good times, we remember past dangers and find comfort in those who share our memories of survival.
But in this world, all people are equal in adversity. We are all threatened by common dangers. Nuclear holocaust, hunger, disease, persecution, loneliness.
Even when the suffering of Jews becomes a memory, we must honor the lessons we have learned through our historical experience of suffering by caring for those who still suffer.
We believe in the future of the Jewish people. We believe in the future of humankind. We're about to sing Machar, and Machar is an Israeli song written by Naomi Shemer. Machar means tomorrow in Hebrew, and I am told it is entirely a coincidence that there's a song called Machar and a congregation called Machar. Machar, the song, was originally written in Hebrew, but it's modern Hebrew, and it doesn't necessarily glide off the tongue of non-Hebrew speakers, particularly those who've had the kind of not always quality Hebrew education we sometimes get at our synagogues. But because we still hope to approach the future, to approach tomorrow, with hope, we continue to sing Machar in translation, and you will find it at number 16 in the hymnal section.
In spite of gray and gloomy skies, tomorrow will be clear and bright. Mahar, we have a hope that never dies, that sun will soon replace the light. Sing, for tomorrow is another day. Dream a dream that's free of care and sorrow. When it's dark, let your heart lead the way, and Mahar will be, and Mahar will be, and Mahar will be a bright tomorrow.
Well, it's that time again. Everybody's excited, right? For announcements. Am I the only person who gets excited? It's okay. Now I know I said announcements, and so the cell phones are going to come out, and that's great. Open your calendar and add these dates. Make lemons out of lemonade, you know? First, Yom Kippur happens here. I mean, okay, so it's everywhere, but really for us, it happens here tomorrow morning. Children's service is at 9:30, and the main service is at 10:30. 5 days from that, on Sunday evening, Sukkot begins. Our Sukkot celebration will be that morning, October 9th at Cabin John Regional Park. Parents of JCS students, it is actually an official JCS session. The teachers will be there, and there will be appropriate activities for all ages. And look at your Tuesday update, if you get it in your email, because there's a link to sign up for the potluck that we'll have toward the end of the program. Potluck doesn't work if you don't sign up and bring stuff, so please sign up and bring stuff, regardless of your age. Look at, if you're 45 and you still want to build a graham cracker and chocolate sukkah, maybe this is your chance. We have many, many people to thank for making tonight's service possible. Keeping the trains running on time is Tara Newhouse, our administrator, together with our member volunteers, Darlene Bash, Barry Dancis, Elaine Dancis, Michael Friedman, Joyce Rosenthal, Jack Schwartz, Nadine Wetstein, and Michael Whitman. Our choir and accompanist have been Harry Appleman, Laura Ariovich, Greg Greisa, Joy Markowitz, and Joanne Pratt, and Greg Greisa took it on the chin for two vocal Kol Nidre. And Harry took it on the chin for a piano rendition of Kol Nidre. They also took it on the chin that they didn't have to hear me do it. Our readers are Sharon Rosenberg and Livia Rosenberg. We also owe thanks to Cedar Lane staff and volunteers Claire J. Cox, Lizzie Person, Mike McCrickard, Jose Morant, Rufo Nassau, and Michael Morse. And we also owe a final thank you to you, because if you don't come to these things, they don't happen. We do them for you, not so that I can stand on a podium with a microphone in my face, because this is not my natural state. And so thank you for coming and participating in our Kol Nidre programming. And to those online, thank you for logging on and joining us for Kol Nidre. We still have a little bit left on the bottom of page 17.
We see the Jewish people as our family, our Jewishness as our home.
We see humankind as our family, and the whole world as our home.
As we enter the new year, we carry with us wishes of peace, health, and the absence of suffering for all.
Lashana Tova Umetuka,
Lashana Tova
a good and sweet year, and we will conclude with Bashana, which is number 9 in our hymnal section. May we go in peace until we meet again, hopefully tomorrow.